Welcome back to Central Florida Spotlight, here again with State Representative Carlos Guillermo-Smith. Some of the other things, you were elected to the will of the people as well, and the will of the people regarding medical marijuana, you have said, has not been followed, although the new governor seems to have put the wheels in motion to allow that to happen.
That's right. You know, I have some agreement with Governor DeSantis when it comes to lifting the arbitrary and unconstitutional ban on smoking medical cannabis. 2 years ago, when that implementing law was in front of me, I voted against it because I knew that banning smokable medical cannabis for legitimate sick patients was wrong and unconstitutional. It looks like the legislature is prepared now to finally lift that ban, so I see that as progress. But I'm also
for recreational, right?
That's right. I am a canna warrior, as they say, because I'm advocating to move on and move away from the draconian cannabis laws that we have in the state of Florida. I have filed legislation first to decriminalize, and I have also filed legislation with Representative Mike Greco to legalize cannabis for adult use. The prohibition of alcohol in this country never worked. It failed. The prohibition of cannabis right now is not working either. And the reality is a majority of Floridians support legalizing cannabis for adult use. We need to make sure that we're doing that, because the reality is people are not dying from overdosing on cannabis. It is something that can be regulated, it can be taxed, it can be used to fund our public schools, to fund transportation and infrastructure. It's a no-brainer, and I'm going to keep fighting for that.
I know there are other things that are priorities for you during the legislative session.
That's right.
One of those is TPS for people from Venezuela. Talk about that.
Yeah, you know, I'm really proud because what we've brought forward is bipartisan legislation that I introduced with Republican Senator Ana Terry Flores. And what the legislation says is it's a memorial to Congress, to the President, and to the Department of Homeland Security, telling them to take action to grant TPS, which is temporary protected status, for those Venezuelans who are here in the United States who have fled the Maduro regime. We know that the brutal dictatorship of the Maduro regime has been starving people. People have been killed in that country. They're fleeing to other countries, places like Colombia. They're trying to make their way to the United States. The least that we can do is move beyond the rhetoric of just solidarity with Venezuela and their people. We need to take action, and we need to grant TPS status to protect those Venezuelans who are here from deportation, because that would deport them back to a very dangerous and volatile political situation.
One of the big issues that you had last session, talking about gun control, the assault weapons ban, after Pulse, you really became more passionate about that. Where does it stand? Where do you stand on it?
That's right. Well, for the third year in a row, I've introduced a assault weapons and large capacity magazine ban because we know that that is something that civilians shouldn't have. They're weapons of war. They were made for war, and they've become the gold standard for mass shootings. We know that we have a tall order in the Florida legislature, which is why we know that if our legislation is not able to pass this year, it does supplement and support the ballot initiative from Ban Assault Weapons Now. They're trying to put this question in front of voters for voters to decide. But even beyond just guns, look, I am a powerful and authentic advocate for the families who were impacted by Pulse and the victims. So we're going to be working on gun safety, LGBTQ equality, and I'm also proud that I've brought forward a budget request this year that would appropriate $2 million to the One Pulse Foundation to assist with the construction of the Pulse Memorial and the Pulse Museum that is going to be created right here in Central Florida. I think that is a very, very noble way to remember the 49 and to continue to give people a place of healing as we move on from the events of June 12, 2016.
You were the first one that told me you felt Andrew Gillum was the guy. This was way back with a crowded field. You were right there. But I want to get your impressions of the early days of Ron DeSantis. Are you surprised what you're seeing by our new governor?
I am surprised. Governor DeSantis played the role of mini Trump very well during the campaign. It seems like he's moved away from that, so I think we're all a bit surprised. But I see that as an opportunity. Well, and yes, there's areas of agreement. For example, there's areas of agreement in overhauling the teacher bonus program, although I think we need to raise teacher pay across the board.
Vouchers.
There's areas of agreement on medical cannabis, disagreement, vouchers. He wants to move towards a universal private school voucher system. I do not support that. He also has set an ugly tone against immigrants in this state, wanting to ban sanctuary cities that don't even exist. The reality is that I think that type of rhetoric is not helpful, but I see opportunities for us to work together on issues that unfortunately Governor Rick Scott never took any action on. And I think that at the end of the day, what people are most surprised by with Ron DeSantis is just the contrast. Governor Rick Scott failed the people of Florida so badly that most people see we have nowhere to go from up, and they see Ron DeSantis as an upgrade.
There you go. Well, thank you. I want to have you back in where we're not limited to just 2 segments, but thank you very much for being with us, Carlos.
Thank you for having me. Anytime, Greg.
Absolutely. There you go. And on that note, we'll wrap up this week's edition of Spotlight. Thanks again to our guest state representatives, Randy Fine and Carlos Guillermo Smith, for taking all this time to talk with us today and enlightening all of us. And thank you for watching. We'll be back next week with another edition of Spotlight. Until then, take care.